Hello, you absolute legends. Today, we are going to do something fun. Last year, I released a video about fraud and deception in the retro video game market. This created pretty huge shockwaves in the public and in the media, and has ultimately led to one of the key parties involved, Wata Games, getting sued for market manipulation, among other things. This video was received very well by viewers. In fact, it's my highest rated video ever, but not everyone was happy. The people I talked about in the video, and other people who own sealed video games and really want them to be worth millions of dollars, were very upset. Most of their anguish was released in the form of crazy rants on Facebook or Instagram posts that are too insane to address, but luckily for us, one such high-end collector made a very well-produced video attempting to debunk my arguments. This video was so good and so compelling that it was liked and shared by the president of Wata Games himself, Dennis Khan, which is one of the reasons I decided to make this response. And according to the comments on Instagram, it completely demolishes my claims. It's the coup de grace, as it were. So let's take a look at this video and see if it's as good as they say. I am always open to honest and sincere peer review, and there might be somewhere I was wrong, so I'm interested to see what this person has to say. Now, before we delve into it, I need to say something, and I need you to take it very seriously. In the video we are about to watch, this high-end collector will lie about me, misrepresent what I said, lie about others, misrepresent what they said, make up claims about me out of thin air, and attack my character. Thus, my response video will by its very nature, make this person look bad. But I don't want you to go and attack them, harass them, or even contact them if you have any ill intentions. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's a way to delve into the minds of these people and learn how they operate. With that being said, I really hope you enjoy. Now, legends, if you want to eat healthier, tastier food without all the fuss, you need to try this video's sponsor, Hellofresh. Hellofresh delivers incredible meals in the form of fresh, pre-measured ingredients right to your door. I'm a pretty busy guy who also has some lofty health goals, and I've been primarily relying on pre-packaged meals. But oh my lord, after trying Hellofresh, it's a night and day difference. Nothing compares to a home-cooked meal with fresh ingredients, and I was genuinely impressed at how tasty these meals are. Because I'm trying to get into shape, I go with the fit and wholesome plan, but you can pick and swap meals to suit your own needs. There are a ton of great recipes. HelloFresh provides the exact amount you need for each ingredient, and the instructions are easy to follow, so there really isn't much thought or preparation required, which suits me because I'm a terrible cook, which is another benefit because you don't have to already be a great cook to whip up something delicious and healthy. I strongly recommend everyone tries HelloFresh if they haven't already, and you can use my link or go to hellofresh.com and use code POGCARLSEPT16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes, plus 3 surprise gifts. And what's cool is that once you click, my description will live update to count up all the purchases. My goal is to hit 1 billion, so please go check them out.
Graded video games made huge waves in the world of collectibles in 2021. From the highs of the $1.5 million Super Mario 64 sale, which made headlines in North America and beyond,
we're gonna sell at 1.3 million.
To the lows of Carl Jobst's YouTube expose charging fraud and deception in the market. Good or bad, these events put sealed video games on the world stage. So the question remains, sealed video games, is it really a scam? Or is it a legitimate, collectible, investable asset?
The video immediately launches into a straw man argument. A straw man is where someone replaces the argument you actually made with something else, usually something ridiculous. And then when they refute this easily refutable imaginary argument, it appears as though they won. I don't hold the opinion that graded video games are a scam, nor did I ever say that in my video. In fact, I even own and buy graded video games myself. My video focused on the actions of a specific grading company, Wata Games, and a specific auction house, Heritage Auctions. Grading companies and auction houses aren't scams in principle, and I even defended another grading company, VGA, for not manipulating the market like Wata Games did. Grading companies can and do serve a purpose. For example, I personally like to buy North American games, but living in Australia, it's impossible for me to personally vet everything I buy. So buying a graded game gives me much much more confidence in a game's legitimacy and quality. I do see some people make comments on social media that grading is a scam, but that's not a position I hold, even though I do see the merit in what they are saying. Grading is arbitrary, it's a man-made concept, and I'll be the first to admit that thinking an object has more value because someone else put a rating on it is absurd, but I would never call it a scam. What Water and Heritage did, however, I certainly would.
Prices were on a steady rise up, and then the pandemic hit.
Coronavirus officially reaches pandemic proportions.
With everybody stuck at home, alone, bored out of their mind, with nothing to spend their hard-earned dollars on, plus a yearning for the comfort of nostalgia, millions of new buyers entered the collectible space. And sealed video games were no exception. And during the pandemic is when price growth really accelerated. In fact, prices were rising so fast through 2020 that it wasn't unusual for a popular title to double or even triple in a few short months.
He then spends several minutes trying to argue that the insane rise in video game prices was simply due to the pandemic, which is his opinion, and there are arguments for and against this claim. On one hand, I have heard stories of business owners abusing government stimulus loans to buy a ton of graded video games. But on the other hand, the pandemic literally put the entire world into a recession. People had less money overall. I do see a logical connection, however, between Water Games and Heritage auctions flooding the market with hype, and very wealthy people, especially those from the comic, coin, and card markets, buying games because they wanted to make money. And this isn't just a hunch. The wealthy people who do spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a game literally admit that it's to make money.
This is a little different than a collectability piece. Obviously, you can collect it, but we bought this as an investment play. And I think it's justified.
This will be over $1 million someday. You heard me say it. I'll say it 100 times over. This should have gone. I'm ecstatic.
And the beautiful thing is the owners have the control of what they sell it for. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be comfortable selling it less than $1 million.
No.
But
if rich people want to gamble on the price of games, that's their choice, but don't try to tell me that the video game speculative bubble was caused by nostalgia or being stuck at home. If the pandemic did cause people to spend more, that still doesn't answer the question of why they were spending on video games in particular instead of something else. And as you admit yourself, the prices of games started to skyrocket at the exact same time that Water and Heritage began their relationship, which was well before the pandemic hit.
The market was on fire. Things couldn't possibly be going any better. It was happening in fairy tale fashion. And then
the new Carl Jobs. Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
You ready? I'm so fucking nervous. Oh my god. All right, fine, we'll watch it.
I know there's bullshit manipulation and all that other stuff, but I'm really interested to see what Carl has to say.
Maybe those grading services aren't all that honest.
Exposing fraud and deception in the retro video game market. His name's Carl Jobs.
the Carl Jobs video went viral overnight, seemingly discrediting every positive and momentous news article surrounding the hobby. Apparently all us collectors are nothing but puppets on a string.
Do I look like a puppet to you, Jobs?
Clearly, he skipped this section of the video where I explained how speculative bubbles work. No, collectors did not wake up one day and decide to start paying 10 times as much for video games. Speculative bubbles aren't caused by the existing market inflating the price. It's caused by speculators coming in from other markets. As more speculators and more money comes in, the price continues to rise, which brings in even more speculation, until you hit a ceiling and the market corrects or crashes, which is exactly what's happening in video games right now. In 2022, many sealed video games are going for less than half of what they did in 2021.
But who is this Carl Jobs, and what makes him the ultimate authority on the sealed video game market? I mean, I've been collecting for over 10 years now, and I've never heard of him before this video dropped. And asking around the hobby? Nobody has. Odd, isn't it? His thesis centers around sealed video game collectors and how apparently our minds were being manipulated by the powers that be.
No, and it's unfortunate that you seemingly intentionally missed the point of my video. The video wasn't about video game collecting. It was about two companies, Wata Games and Heritage Auctions, committing unethical and illegal acts in order to manipulate the market and to personally profit. It's far more about business ethics and advertising regulations than it is about collecting. The reason I was interested in this particular scam is because I love video games, and the fact that these companies and certain individuals were abusing them in a deceptive way for profit made me mad. Now, I'm sure that you'll continue to conflate collecting in general with the illegal practices of specific companies within the collecting sphere, so I think we need a visual aid. And when it comes to visual aids, no one does it better than Dark Viper AU, and he graciously agreed to come on to help out.
Hey, check this out. This circle represents the entire graded video games market. Within this, you've got the different grading companies, auction houses, you've got the private sellers, the professional resellers, you've got collectors and speculators and so on. And this little circle here represents Wata Games and Heritage Auctions. Now, if you look very closely, you should be able to see that this circle is actually smaller than the larger circle. This naturally being unsurprising because if you are a part of something, by definition, you are not the totality of that thing. So if Wata and Heritage perpetrate a scam, that does not mean the entire market itself is a scam. Because again, this is small circle and this is big circle. You get it? Being critical of a part of something doesn't necessitate being critical of the entire thing.
Furthermore, saying that you don't know who I am does nothing to address my arguments. The video stands on its own merits, regardless of who made it. If the FTC were to investigate Wata, do you think that Wata could turn around and say that because the FTC aren't video game collectors, they don't have enough experience to examine their business practices? Advertising regulations are the same no matter what product you are selling. A lie is a lie, and I don't need to have been collecting for 20 years to know that lying is wrong.
His thesis centers around sealed video game collectors and how apparently our minds were being manipulated by the powers that be, and yet he didn't even bother to interview a single real collector to see how we actually thought during this period? Is this really journalism?
I mean, the video I made literally had multiple collectors in it, so unless they snuck in without talking to me in advance, I probably did speak with them. Saying that someone like Pat the NES Punk, who has been collecting for decades and centers his entire life around collecting, isn't a collector is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Obviously, you and Pat disagree, but saying that he isn't a real collector just shows your propensity for dishonesty.
Carl Jobst is a professional YouTube content creator. His goal is to generate maximum views. He's monetized, plus he has sponsors to please.
Questions. You need to grab yourself some chocolate bars from today's video sponsor, Midday Squares.
And he gets these views by creating sensational and controversial true crime stories centered around gaming. Just look at a list of his most viewed, and most profitable, mind you, videos. And look at these titles. Cheats, fakes, scams. Controversy sells, for Jobst anyways. His viewers aren't looking for a balanced story.
There is a ton to unpack here, so let's break it down piece by piece.
Carl Jobst is a professional YouTube content creator. His goal is to generate maximum views.
My goal is to create videos about topics I'm interested in while doing it in a way that is sustainable for me and my family. I've tried to make videos about things I don't care about, but I simply can't do it. Every video I make is a topic or event that I'm emotionally invested in. The trick is turning something that no one else would care about into something exciting. I mean, if you really break down what I talk about, it's ridiculous. Take my first viral video, for example, which was about someone beating Doom's first level in 8 seconds. I mean, who cares? It's such a silly and meaningless venture, but for whatever reason, I love it, and I think my passion is infectious, which luckily enables me to talk about this topic and still earn enough to do it full time.
He's monetized, plus he has sponsors to please.
Questions. You need to grab yourself some chocolate bars from today's video sponsor, Midday Squares. Anyone who watches my channel knows that all of my videos are sponsored. Sponsors are amazing because they allow me to be the sole breadwinner in my family, so my wife doesn't have to go to work and she can be there for our son. Me earning a decent living is not only a gift to me, it's a gift to them too. They don't have to live day by day being stressed about money. And as someone who was poor and living week to week for 15 years before I started YouTube, I really appreciate the position I'm in. But what I found interesting is that the sponsor clip he showed was from a different video. I thought that was funny and wasn't sure why he wouldn't just show the sponsor I actually used in my fraud and deception video. And then I remembered. It's because I didn't have a sponsor in that video. In fact, I specifically chose not to have a sponsor in that video because of all the videos I've made, I knew this one was the most important. So I didn't want a sponsor to distract people from the message. Trust me, I have so many sponsor opportunities that I have to say no to most of them because I simply can't make enough videos. For me to not put a sponsor in there, sacrificing money that my family could have used, was a big deal. And it's hilarious that despite me specifically not sponsoring that video, people like this guy will still claim that I made the video for sponsor money. But let's put aside all of that for a moment and accept his premise that if one has any profit incentive whatsoever, they should not be trusted. Even if that were the case, unfortunately it doesn't work out for him either. This picture shows the entire revenue I've received for my video. It's a pretty good amount. The video did well and it was long, so the revenue generated per view was high. To a lot of people, this is a lot of money, but let's put it into perspective. See this collection in the background? This person stands to gain millions of dollars from the value of video games going up. So if you shouldn't trust me because I made $13,000, then you should really not trust this guy. Of course, that's using his logic. I would never be dumb enough to make that argument myself.
And he gets these views by creating sensational and controversial true crime stories centered around gaming. Just look at a list of his most viewed, and most profitable, mind you, videos. And look at these titles. Cheats, fakes, scams. Controversy sells, for Jobst anyways.
What's funny about this picture is that despite the attempt of cherry-picking videos to make his point, he still fails miserably. Of the most popular 18 videos he shows, 50% of them are positive in nature. There really isn't a discernible pattern to make out here. Stories about amazing feats can do just as well as stories about con artists and cheats. And this picture begs another question. If all I cared about were views, and drama brings in the most views, why aren't all of my videos centered around drama? Why is the majority of my videos about awesome speedrunning and gaming achievements?
His viewers aren't looking for a balanced story.
You heard it here, folks. You are not interested in a balanced story. You're idiots who will believe anything I tell you because you don't know how to use your brain.
And this is a key distinction. You see, a journalist starts with the question first, then sets out in search of an answer, whereas a YouTube content creator, they start with the answer first, usually after visualizing the most clickable title that'll get them 1 million views.
Is he implying that I randomly decided I wanted to make a video about fraud and deception in the retro video game market, something I've never talked about in any of my videos, and then somehow by pure skill alone was able to make an hour-long video full of evidence of said fraud and deception that was so convincing that the majority of people agreed despite it being all completely fabricated? The odds of that happening are astounding, and if it were true, I really have to give it to myself.
A YouTube content creator, they start with the answer first, usually after visualizing the most clickable title that'll get them 1 million views. Then they set out to make that video.
This guy just made this claim out of thin air, based on nothing, and it's equally as wrong as it is stupid. So let me tell you what actually happened. I heard about the sale of Super Mario 64 for $1.5 million, and as someone who has been casually following video game collecting for about a decade, I knew this was an insane amount. So I started learning more about it because I was just curious, and I wasn't even intending on making a video. I mean, my channel isn't about collecting. There is no logical reason I would decide to make a video about collecting to begin with. It's easy to make judgments after the fact because the video ended up doing well. But when I made the video, I didn't expect it to get views or for anyone to care. Again, it's not my normal content, and there was absolutely no guarantee or reason to believe that my current audience would have any interest in the topic. Even after spending a month researching WOTA and Heritage, looking at press releases, news articles, SEC filings, talking to collectors, and reading lawsuits, I still didn't know if I wanted to make a video. I just researched it because I found it interesting. Because as I said before, I love video games, and anything video game related just tickles my fancy. But I did make the video, and people responded well. Not because they are morons who'll believe anything like you implied, but rather because the evidence in the video makes things quite clear.
Do you really think that Carl Jobst would have included information in his video that would have caused its title to have to change from this to this?
The title of the video isn't clickbait and reflects exactly how I feel. I believe there was fraud and deception in the retro video game market, and I wanted to expose it. If that's how I feel, why would I make the title what you think it should be?
But the video was well produced and effective enough that even news sites saw the commercial potential in covering such a story. And the people gobbled it up. Hello. Not the actual collectors, mind you, people that have been collecting for more than, say, a year. They didn't give a damn about this story.
If you do look back at collecting groups, collecting channels, and talk to collectors, you'll find that this video was a big deal when it was released. Even among video game collectors, the majority of them approved of the video. Even many sealed collectors agreed that it was an important video to make. But yeah, from everyone else's perspective looking in, it looks way worse than I think people inside the collecting sphere understand. Which is why the backlash was so much, you know?
I believe that fully, and I think it's why, you know, a lot of things say, oh, why is Carl making this his fight? Like, why this outsider is coming? But I think in a lot of ways we need the outsider perspective to be the one to put this on a platform to see if, okay, this dude's looking at it now who doesn't have a vested stake in any of this shit. What does he think? You know, and you so easily put together dots where it's like, okay.
The people who really didn't like it were the people I mentioned in the video, and especially the people with million-dollar games who really wanted to preserve their equity. It was exactly the groups specializing in speculation that were the most butthurt, and honestly, I really can't blame them.
Not the actual collectors, mind you, people that have been collecting for more than, say, a year. They didn't give a damn about this story, but the public did, especially because everything that you see on the news is real, right? Like the time Fox 9 covered the story about the guy that went into a thrift store and for just $2 bought a priceless Lady and the Tramp poster worth an incredible $40,000. The feel-good story of the week. How clickable is that? Only problem is, the poster wasn't even worth the $2 the poor sucker paid. This was a junky 80s re-release. But Fox 9 ran the story anyways, without doing any research. But I digress.
Yes, news organizations are terrible at doing research, and it's funny that you would bring this up as some kind of gotcha when this was a central focus in my original video. The news media was complicit in creating a speculative bubble by pumping out puff pieces spearheaded by Wata and Heritage. Still, I don't see why this is relevant. Is he suggesting that because Fox News ran a story that was wrong, that my video is wrong? Again, I would simply implore you to argue against the actual content of my video. We are halfway through this video, and all you've done so far is a terrible attempt at character assassination of not only me, but all of my viewers. But this really isn't a good strategy.
But I digress. So I had a few problems with the video. My main problem? He didn't present any actual proof of any real market manipulation, other than speculation conflating evil intent based on events 30 plus years ago.
It's impossible to respond in any meaningful way to comments like this. My video was 52 minutes long, full of examples of provable lies, breaches of FTC regulations, unethical business practices, and market manipulation. Putting your hands over your eyes and ears and singing la 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 won't make people just forget what they've seen with their own eyes. Also, my video wasn't based on intent, nor do I care about intent. Unethical actions are unethical regardless of whether or not you intended them to be.
Take away the dramatic music and narrative tone for a moment and ask yourself, are these people actually participating in market manipulation, or are they simply promoting their business? We have to ask ourselves, is it not okay to partake in an interview that may increase the value of our own personal stock? If not, well then, Jobs, you've even caught the great one offside, as have LeBron James, Logan Paul, Justin Bieber, Steve Aoki, Kevin Durant. The list goes on, not to mention every hedge fund ever.
We bought a lot more Apple after year end. One of the fellows in the office has about 10 million shares, and I have for Berkshire's account about 123 million. So we got about 133 million.
Is the owner of Heritage Auctions not allowed to be a collector himself? Is the owner of Christie's Auctions allowed to collect modern art? Should Elon Musk be allowed to drive a Tesla? Should Carl Jobst be allowed to participate in speedruns if his participation may increase demand for his videos?
This person apparently watched my video and walked away thinking that my point was that advertising your own product is wrong. Nowhere in my video did I make this point, and I feel my IQ lowering by the second by just having to even clarify this. You can't advertise your own product, you just can't lie when you do it. It's very simple. The FTC has rules and regulations about how you can and can't advertise your own products, and Whatta Games broke those rules. But even if those rules didn't exist, lying is just unethical in general. Notice how throughout this video, he will use extremely dumbed down language and adolescent concepts like advertising your own product isn't wrong and video game collecting isn't a scam, but fails to bring up or address the specific issues that I brought up, or the specific regulations that Whatta Games allegedly broke. To make this a bit clearer, let's take a look at a snippet from the class action lawsuit filed against Whatta Games. It highlights very specific wrongdoings, and we can read through a few of them. The public statements of Halperin disclosing the sale of the Super Mario Bros. Game and sale price on the Heritage Auction website without disclosing his relationship to Whatta. Khan's public comments on Heritage Auctions without disclosing Halperin's relationship to Whatta. The appearance of Lecter and Khan on History Channel's Pawn Stars show and the non-disclosure of an existing relationship between the two. Whatta's directors and employees selling games without disclosing their relationship to the company after Khan indicated such a practice was not permitted. And it goes on and on. And aside from the specific laws they cite in this lawsuit, I can point you to the exact FTC regulations that were broken. But of course, none of these will be addressed. Instead, he will just state inane concepts like advertising is okay. This is very high-level stuff.
And sorry to break it to you, but you know Pawn Stars is a fake show, right? It's entertainment designed to showcase various collectibles, and they bring in industry experts to give a little bit of history and background on the items. These aren't real negotiations.
Pawn Stars is not a fake show. This isn't fiction, it's reality TV. It's partially scripted and they know the outcome when they film it, but sales do actually happen. The experts that come on are actually experts, and they are giving real expert opinions. There is no expectation from the public that the experts aren't real, or what they are saying isn't an expert opinion.
It's like being asked to go on the Jay Leno show if you're in the collectibles world. You don't turn down that invitation. It's great publicity for your company.
Dennis Khan absolutely can do exactly what he did. It wasn't what he did that was the problem. It's what he didn't do. What he should have done is inform the viewers that the owners of the cart he was appraising were part owners of the same grading company that graded it. Basically, the owners of the cart were Dennis Khan's bosses and gave his company money. There is a gigantic conflict of interest here, and it needed to be disclosed. But of course, that wouldn't happen, because as soon as Dennis Khan told the truth, the public would find the entire segment ridiculous, because it was.
And for anyone that thinks that Dennis did something evil in his segment,
Pawn Stars even had Dennis Khan come on, and again he pumped up the value.
Go rewatch it with your own eyes. He didn't offer a single opinion of value. Is he not allowed to discuss the history of video games? To be honest, with all the hype, I was surprised not to find any wrongdoing in this clip.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Come again?
Go rewatch it with your own eyes. He didn't offer a single opinion of value.
Okay, well, I've seen this segment many times, and he definitely did give an opinion of value, but let's double check.
So if this went into an auction today, your estimate would be?
It's really hard to tell. It hasn't sold on the open market. I know of firm offers that have been turned down at $300,000. It goes up from there. There's no ceiling, really.
So he first implies that $300,000 was not enough because it was turned down, but then he specifically says it goes up from there. He didn't say it could go up, it could go down, who really knows? He said it goes up from there and there is no ceiling. It could be worth $1 million, maybe even $1 billion, but certainly more than $300,000. And remember, just a couple of months earlier, this cart was bought for only $100,000. Now I'm totally confused because when I watched the clip, Dennis Khan does give an opinion of value, but this guy said he didn't. I just don't know what to believe. Do I trust my own eyes and ears? is? Or do I believe this person who keeps lying in his video? I don't even know what's real anymore.
And what's with this toxic mob mentality going on in America right now? We used to champion our heroes. Young guys like Dennis that put it all on the line to pursue their lifelong passion. To start a company at age 25 that gets bought out by hedge fund billionaire Steve Cohen within 3 years? That's amazing. That's the American dream.
Well, I'm not American, and neither is the majority of the world, so appealing to the American dream doesn't really have any effect on me. All it really does is remind me of this.
Is it for what? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
In all seriousness, starting up a business does not give you a free ticket to lie and deceive people.
And how does Jobs get off claiming that?
I haven't heard of a single legitimate collector buying any of these expensive games. Out of everything in my video, this is the one thing that I completely regret saying, and it's 100% wrong. Now, don't get me twisted, the speculative bubble was still caused by speculation, and I still believe that most high-value purchases are fueled by profit, but just because there is a speculative bubble, that doesn't mean that everyone in the market is a speculator. There are collectors that have been collecting sealed video games for many years, and obviously, if they still want to collect, they are forced into buying these games, even at such insane prices. Since I made my original video, I've met and formed relationships with some really nice graded collectors. And it's a huge shame that graded collecting in general got tarnished by the actions of a small group of individuals. I was actually shocked at how nice some of the collectors were, and I want to give a huge shout out and some appreciation to a few of them that have helped me a lot. The first is Get the Greg Games, who runs a YouTube channel talking about the graded video game market. He is a super nice guy and has an awesome community. I definitely think you should give his channel a follow. And I also want to thank Minus World and Dan, who have been extremely helpful to me when it comes to learning about and buying games. I really want to stress that most of the collectors I've spoken to have been pretty cool people, and I don't want you to have the idea that every sealed collector is bad just because of What Are Games, Heritage Auctions, and the speculators that are abusing the hobby.
And he went as far to accuse Eric Nierman, a guy that's dedicated thousands of hours of his free time to studying this hobby, of not being a real collector. Very few people are this dedicated to a hobby. That's the definition of a collector. Jobs has no idea what he's talking about.
Eric Nierman literally admitted that he didn't even know the retro video game market existed and got into it to make money. He borrowed $1 million from his rich friends and created a company with the specific intention of profiting from rising video game prices. I'm not even sure why you would argue this point when he explicitly explained his intentions.
Of course, that same week I discover on Heritage Auctions vintage video games, which I never even knew existed. And then when it played through in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is like so much better than cards. And for me, wow, if this even catches up a quarter of to where cards have gone, you know, we could see 100x returns just at the beginning, you know, because it was so new. As a collectible investment, this was like everything that I saw on a Mike Trout card, but like to the max on steroids. And for me, it was a time machine. It was literally like, if you could like, I always said to myself, I would look at like Nat Turner's collection of cards on Instagram at that time. And I was like, wow, if only I could go back 10 years and just like hang out with him and just buy everything he was buying. And, you know, it's that time machine that everyone has. You guys have with NFTs. It's always that if I could go back, I could be a billionaire, right? So I said, this is my moment that I'm going to go back in time, but it's going to be today. And I'm just going to just go for it. But I had no money. So it was just a crazy idea. And I thought it was a genius idea, but I did not, even if I had the $75,000, I wouldn't have made a dent in the market. And I just spent it on the card. So that was tied up. So I was kind of like down about it, but thank God my brother-in-law was in town for Passover. That it was Passover time. And I was talking to him about it. He's like, that sounds insane, but you seem like really confident about it. He goes, what I do when I have an insane idea and I'm really confident, I start a hedge fund. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, just, you know, speak to intelligent business people, pitch them your idea like you're pitching anything else. And if they believe in it, maybe they'll fund you and you could do your thing. And I'm like, that's a genius idea. One thing that was important to me also, I wasn't dumb. I knew this was a very speculative, crazy idea. It wasn't responsible at the time, you know, per se, what most people were investing in. But sometimes those are the ones that hit the jackpot.
You have people that have devoted their entire lives to collecting and have been collecting for decades, but when Eric and his rich friends pull together a ton of money and buy every expensive game they can find, this instantly makes him one of the most avid collectors in the world. It's a joke. Honestly, I hate focusing on Eric, and I wouldn't have brought him up again if this video hadn't made such an insane argument. Eric was merely an example of how these high-end speculators use money and the media in order to abuse a market for their own gain.
Jobst has no idea what he's talking about. Is Pat Contry Jobst's only definition of a collector? The same guy that says that true collectors should rip open their one-of-a-kind sealed games because games are meant to be played? Is that really a collector?
I'm going to need a source on this claim that Pat said people should rip open their sealed games. Pat owns sealed games himself and hasn't ripped them open, so I wouldn't believe such a claim without evidence. And given that you're about to show clips of Pat, why wouldn't you show the clip where he says this? My definition of a collector is someone who buys a game for the sake of owning it, and without the intention of selling it later. It's someone who buys a game because they want to keep it, not because they want to profit from its sale once the value has gone up.
Does the same guy rip the top off of King Tut's sarcophagus because beds are meant to be laid in? Does the same guy wear Michael Jordan's rookie jersey to a family barbecue because clothing is meant to be worn?
Oh great, it's another straw man. Next.
And here's something interesting. Pat Contry makes his collecting philosophy very clear here.
They don't care about the first Mario $3 or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games. Well, I'm not paying $60, $75 for the first print Super Mario Bros. Cart. I'm fine with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth print runs because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
But in the next breath,
I can't even drop the money I wanted to drop on an Amazing Fantasy 15 grade because the price keeps going up 20% each year.
If variants don't matter because comic books are meant to be read, why would you spend $20,000 on an original when you could buy this copy for $20? It reads the same, and comic books are meant to be read, right, Pat?
This is truly beautiful. The first clip seems a bit strange because Pat is saying they, so it doesn't seem like he is talking about himself.
They don't care about the first Mario $3 or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games.
But in the second clip, he definitely says, I don't care, I just want to play the game.
Because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
But sometimes, not everything is as it seems. Whenever you see clips like this online from people trying to discredit someone, you should always check the source before believing it. So let's take a look at this quote and check out the original context.
Because if a video game vendor has a Super Mario Bros. 3 cart, and it is the first print of it and puts the brothers to the left, and then tries to sell it for 3 or 4 times the value, tries to sell it for $60, most of the people that see that cart are going to be like, well, I'm not paying $60, $75 for the first print Super Mario Bros. Cart. I'm fine with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth print runs because I just want to play what to me is one of the best platforms ever created. I don't give a shit that this came out 6 months before this other version. I don't care. I just want to play the game.
So the clipped quote was this, but the actual full quote was this. He wasn't sharing his philosophy at all. He was just expressing what he thinks the opinion of most other people is, which is that they don't care about the variants, they just want to play games, which I also think is true. He wasn't even talking about collectors, he was talking about the general public.
Because it's a hard thing, and just because you may know a couple little details doesn't mean you know everything, and it doesn't mean what you think is important means that it's important to these video game sellers because they're not making money off of the Super Mario Bros. 3 variant. That's not the way they're making a living. They're not making money off of some of these box variants because the people that they sell to aren't you. They are buying just carts by and large, so they don't give a shit because they're actually playing the games. A lot of the people they sell to, even some of the collectors that are buying the carts or complete in box, they are playing the games, so they don't give a shit about what is the first box for Super Mario Brothers. They don't care about the first Mario $3 or the first, you know what I mean? They don't care because they are video game collectors. They are playing the games.
This guy painstakingly edited the clip of Pat mid-sentence in order to lie and misrepresent what he said. People who do this are absolutely disgusting. I've had the same thing done to me, and it's why I really don't trust things like this without going to the source.
I can't even drop the money I wanted to drop on an Amazing Fantasy 15 grade because the price keeps going up 20% each year.
If variants don't matter because comic books are meant to be read, why would you spend $20,000 on an original when you could buy this copy for $20? It reads the same, and comic books are meant to be read, right, Pat?
Amazing. So first he edits what Pat says to lie and misrepresent him, then he takes that fake argument that he made up himself and smugly argues against it like it's a slam dunk.
And with Pat being Job's main source of information for this video, I like how he just blatantly ignored anything positive that Pat had to say about WADA.
Wait, what? This guy just makes up whatever he wants and asserts it confidently as fact. It's honestly impressive. Pat was not my main source for the video, and it boggles the mind how much BS this guy is able to spin in such a short amount of time. My sources were the press releases, SEC filings, news articles, lawsuits, interviews, and TV appearances. The sources are all in the video. I spent a month investigating the individuals involved, learning their connections and history. How can you watch that video that has so many sources and claim that my source was Pat, when he was never cited as a source a single time?
I like how he just blatantly ignored anything positive that Pat had to say about WADA.
WADA Games, they marketed themselves better, closer to what CGC was than what VGA. VGA dropped the ball. The Video Game Authority, those guys dropped the ball. They could have been this, but they weren't. Plus, well, we talked about how WADA was doing a better job because they had guys that, from the video game collecting scene, that knew about sealed games to authenticate. They were really more of an authority than VGA, and that's why we liked WADA.
But that doesn't work for Job's narrative, so instead he ran with this.
In fact, the Video Game Authority, aka VGA, has been grading games since 2008. But the introduction of VGA didn't cause a bubble like the introduction of WADA Games did. And the reason is simple. VGA didn't manipulate the market. Why would Heritage Auctions, a prestigious auction house, agree to sell games from a company that hadn't graded a single game? Why would they trust a business that hadn't even done any business to begin with, when there was already an existing grading company that had been grading games for 10 years?
Again, this isn't journalism. Pat knows the truth. WADA is a great company and do offer a great service.
These arguments make no logical sense. He first suggests that it doesn't matter if WADA and Heritage lies to the public or does anything illegal because the product they made was better than VGA. And even though my video was about their unethical business practices, I should have also praised them for some reason. My video was about fraud and deception, not my opinion on WADA's product. If you follow this logic, it means that every time a journalist reports on a murderer, they also have to list out all the nice things about the murderer too. Maybe the murderer helped an old lady across the street one time, and that has to be mentioned because otherwise it's just not journalism.
But the video dropped, and with all the negative talk and headlines it created, momentum shifted and the market pulled back. Of course it did. With the recent rush of new buyers, they didn't have time to properly ground themselves within this hobby. When they read headlines of fraud, they don't know what's going on. Naturally, they'll put their buying on hold.
Don't buy, don't buy.
This video is the true manipulator.
Okay, now I'm confused again. Earlier in the video, he said this.
Apparently all us collectors are nothing but puppets on a string.
Do I look like a puppet to you, Jobs?
His thesis centers around sealed video game collectors and how apparently our minds were being manipulated by the powers that be.
So on one hand, collectors aren't puppets, but my video also somehow had a massive impact on collectors and caused the market to nosedive?
And when Jobst finally spoke with some real collectors only after the video dropped, he learned some real truth.
Since you've made the video, how much has your perspective changed?
Yeah, as far as the collecting stuff goes, my perspective has changed a lot. My impression of it was full speculation, but now you've got every collectible is ballooning.
Yeah.
And even I wouldn't be able to predict what is or isn't normal, what things should or shouldn't be, you know? But speaking with you guys, speaking with other collectors. Definitely changed my perspective as far as that goes. But definitely the collecting side was, yeah, I believe that I was quite wrong. I don't know. I was probably quite wrong about the collecting stuff. Yeah, I have to freely admit that. I'm not saying any of even these recent big sales are or anything like shady going on with them. And when it came to the actual collecting side of it, I didn't do much research. I didn't even consider the possibility that I was like way off there. Oh nice, some more out of context clips. And once again, he completely misrepresents what we were talking about. Though I don't really need to grab the entire source this time, as even in the clips he showed, it was clear I was talking about collecting. I even used the word collecting, which I would never do if I was talking about speculation. I wasn't talking about the illegal business practices of Wata and Heritage, I was talking about something else. And in that same video, I specifically clarified that. I feel like my perspective is too biased. I mean, I have my opinions about the ethics side of it, the behaviors, which hasn't really changed through anything that I've really learned. But the percentage of speculation and all that kind of stuff is definitely changing. Remember, I did say at the beginning of this video that this guy would continue to conflate collecting with the speculation caused by Wata and Heritage, and if it happens again, I'm gonna have to get Dark Viper back to explain it one more time. I don't know, yeah, I'll try to, when I talk about it again, I'll try to temper what I said about that thing. Obviously, moving forward, I understand. I understand the dangers of saying stuff like that. I'll try and do my best in the follow-up video to mitigate some of that.
But when he got around to that follow-up video, he promised, you can guess what happened. No comment needed.
Again, he misrepresents what I said and then dunks on his own fabrication. Actually, I did exactly what I said I would do in the second video. In the second video, you'll notice that I didn't make any claims against collectors. This time I focused purely on the legality of the actions perpetrated by Wata and Heritage. I talked about FTC regulations and how their actions were illegal. I basically avoided stating my opinion about the overall market. Now, we are basically at the end of the video, but I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Why? Why do you think the person in this video felt the need to blatantly lie so many times? What's the goal? Well, I think he sums it up best himself when he concludes his video.
My first big purchase was this copy of Super Mario Bros. 1 Round Seal for NES, for which I paid the hefty price tag of $3,000 at the time. And here's what's important. At the time, in the days before Wata, and it was obvious VGA was not going to cut it, the future of sealed video games was unclear. But when showing my cousins at the time in 2012, I told them with complete confidence, this will be a $1 million game one day. Sealed video games are the future of collecting. There is no denying that, and one clickbait video is not going to change that.
Remember, this is the video being praised as an amazing response to my video. A video full of lies, deceit, and manipulation. The exact same thing that I was calling out. So I guess it does make sense that the very same people who caused and benefited from the video game speculative bubble would be drawn to it and think it was a good video. What's ironic is that while people like this accuse me of harming the collecting hobby, their own compulsive need to lie does more damage than I ever could. And until they stop letting their greed dictate their morals and start telling the truth, the public will continue to hate them, and for good reason. Despite the bad actors, video game collecting, whether it's loose, complete in box, or sealed, is still an awesome hobby. Don't let the con artists take away any appreciation you have for these rare games. Personally, I can't wait to buy more games that are special to me. I don't care how much they are worth, I don't care if they go up in value, I never intend to sell them, I just think they are cool and they mean something to me. And I do suggest, if there is a special game for you, that you try to get yourself a good copy, and give it the love that it deserves. As always, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.